Don Rickles. You won't believe what happened next. After a lifetime of trading barbs and belly laughs on late-night TV, Don Rickles finally told the story he'd kept close to the vest, the one about Johnny Carson, the promises he thought were made, and the grudge that never quite let go. Picture this. Two giants at the height of TV's golden age, Johnny Carson, cool as ice with timing like a metronome, and Don Rickles, the human buzz, saw who could roast royalty and have them begging for more. On screen, they looked inseparable, a comedy duet that felt like friendship forged in fire. Off-screen? Now, that's where things get messy. Don Rickles didn't start out to be Mr. Warmth. Born the 8th of May, 1926, in Queens to Jewish immigrant parents, he grew up in Jackson Heights, where Yiddish and sharp wit were everyday music at home. At 18, he enlisted in the Navy during World War II and served aboard the motor torpedo boat tender USS Cyrene. No frontline firefights, but plenty of discipline and time to think about life after the uniform. When the war ended, he chased acting, studying at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. The problem? Casting directors weren't exactly lining up, so he tried stand-up as a way to stay on stage. Early on, the jokes were fine but not electric. Then, a heckler lit the fuse. Rickles snapped back with a perfectly aimed insult, and the room detonated with laughter. There, it was his voice. Not long routines, just split-second jabs that somehow felt affectionate even when they stung. And then came the night that changed everything. In a Miami Beach club, Frank Sinatra took a seat. Most comics would tiptoe. Rickles didn't. He looked right at the chairman and cracked, "Make yourself at home, Frank. Hit somebody." The place exploded. Sinatra loved it and started raving about Rickles to everyone who mattered. Vegas opened its doors. The Merchant of Venom was born paradoxically nicknamed Mr. Warmth because his insults made you feel like you were part of the party, not the punchline. TV followed roasts, guest spots, a short-lived sitcom, and later, the Navy-themed series C.P.O. Sharkey. On film, he held his own alongside Clark Gable and Burt Lancaster in Run Silent, Run Deep. Decades later, the world would circle back with an Emmy for the documentary Mr. Warmth. The Don Rickles Project. A full life, right? Almost. Behind the lampshade and the grin, Rickles carried quiet weight. In 1965, he married Barbara Sklar, the love of his life and the center of gravity that kept him steady through the late-night carousel. They had 2 kids, Mindy Rickles and Larry Rickles. Mindy has said her dad was loving but guarded at home. On stage, he handed out jokes like confetti. But with family, the deepest feelings didn't always come easy. Then came the blow that never really heals. In 2011, Larry died of pneumonia at 41. Rickles kept working because that's what he knew, but friends said you could feel a new heaviness beneath the sparkle. Enter Johnny Carson, the king of late night and the stage where Rickles did some of his most legendary work. Their dynamic clicked because they were opposites. Carson was the immaculate straight man, cool, economical, and surgical, with a silence. Rickles was a firecracker. Their chemistry wasn't just good, it was appointment television. In 1976, Carson discovered his desk cigarette box busted. Rickles had handled it the night before while guest hosting. Carson did the unthinkable for live TV. He marched across the hall mid-show to the C.P.O. Sharkey set and confronted Rickles on camera. The audience lost it. That moment is now late-night scripture. 2 years later, during a big anniversary special, Rickles roasted Carson with gleeful precision. Money, marriages, mystique. Johnny sat there, grinning, letting the maestro work. Rickles didn't just answer questions on that couch. He hijacked the room. Surprises, physical, bits, mock pleas for mercy. He turned simple interviews into mini-events. But make no mistake, Carson controlled that world. He decided who sat down, who came back, and who didn't. Ask Joan Rivers, once his chosen guest host, who found herself banished after launching her own show. Ask Rich Little, the impressionist, who reportedly wore out his welcome. Carson's power was the air everyone breathed, even Rickles. And Carson himself? Complicated doesn't cover it. He married 4 times, Jody Wolcott, Joanne Copeland, Joanna Holland, and Alexis Moss. And the stories behind the curtain weren't all pretty. Drinking, temper, distance friends and exes painted a portrait of a man who could be dazzling on camera and ice-cold once the applause died. In 1991, tragedy hit. Carson's son Richard died in a car accident. Carson didn't attend the funeral, fearing the circus would drown out the family's grief. He retreated to the things he could master: tennis, drums, isolation. The king of late night kept his court at arm's length. All of that texture, control, distance, genius, fed into what happened next. When Carson stepped away in 1992, Don Rickles believed he had a shot at the desk. Not the obvious, safe choice, sure, but a choice that felt earned after years of making that room levitate. According to people close to him, he felt led to believe it was possible. Then the network crowned Jay Leno. Business reasons, demographics, strategy, call it what you want. For Rickles, it was personal. The story goes that he felt betrayed. He reportedly called Carson a liar in private, and the warmth audiences saw between them began to look, in his own memory, like something more transactional. The sting lingered for years. Meanwhile, Rickles kept working, still a killer on stage, still the gold standard for insult comedy. But if the topic of Carson's retirement bubbled up, you could hear the bruise. And there were other shadows in the background. Rumors swirled about Rickles's mixed feelings toward Frank Sinatra, including dark whispers tied to Marilyn Monroe's tragic story. Rickles never went public with accusations, and a lot of that lives in the fog of Hollywood hearsay. But those murmurs added to the sense that the smiling assassin had private battles most viewers never saw. Then, the curtain fell on an era. On the 23rd of January, 2005, Johnny Carson died of emphysema at 79. The next night, late-night TV paused its usual rituals for a heartfelt tribute. Don Rickles appeared with Bob Newhart and Carson's longtime right-hand man, Ed McMahon. And Rickles did something beautifully honest. He called Carson the best straight man a comedian could ever hope for. He also called him a complicated genius. That's the truth in a nutshell. The two of them made magic, and like a lot of great partnerships, it was equal parts chemistry, boundaries, admiration, and, yes, disappointment. Here's where you come in. Should Don Rickles have been given a real shot to host The Tonight Show after Johnny Carson stepped down? Was he too wild for the chair, or exactly the jolt it needed? Drop your take in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. And if you love true behind-the-scenes stories about the legends who shaped comedy, hit like, subscribe, and share this with a friend who still quotes the classics. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.